Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, and today's video will be walking you through another new huge Nintendo Switch eShop sale and 10 games worth buying, so let's get into it. Now the first game on today's list is Monster Destroyer. Now don't let the look of this game fool you, it's actually a ton of fun and incredibly addicting, but the gameplay is sort of like a knockoff Vampire Survivors. Now if you're not familiar with that game, it's one of my favorites from last year, but basically it's an endless shooter where hordes and hordes of enemies continue to swarm on you, and you try and survive as long as you can throughout the levels. And so there'll be a bunch of different characters to choose from. You only start off with one, which is more of a warrior character. And as you progress through the levels and survive longer, you'll unlock new weapons that you can equip to your characters and new defense buffs to help you survive the levels. And it is a roguelike game as well, so each time that you die, you'll gather coins that you'll be able to reinvest back into your characters to boost their base statistics, help you acquire more gold, hold more weapons, and much more. And so like I said, it is kind of a knockoff Vampire Survivors in a way, where a lot of the items and weapons that you find act very similar, but they're just named different. And while the quality isn't quite there as Vampire Survivors, the game still is a lot of fun and really addicting. So one thing I think they missed is definitely the translation element of this game. There's some funny things that you see throughout the game. For example, one of the characters is called a paladin, but they're clearly an assassin. They have an assassin weapon, they have an assassin moveset, they look like an assassin, but they're called a paladin. So again, definitely not game-breaking things by any means. You can still get the full enjoyment out of the game, but you will notice some quality elements dip a little bit throughout the game. But beyond that, if you don't really care about graphics or maybe some little kinks like that, it's on a massive discount right now, and I definitely think you'll get hours of gameplay out of the game either way. So if you're looking for a game like Vampire Survivors, which hasn't yet come to the Switch, that's a ton of fun and super addicting, I definitely recommend checking it out. Alright, the next game on today's list is Write and Down. And so this is a unique roguelike dungeon crawler meets puzzle game. And so how the game works is you'll have a series of dungeons that you're trying to get through, and you have the option of choosing from different base characters that you want to challenge the dungeons with, each with their own unique set of abilities. And the game is pretty simplistic, but at the same time, the strategy can get pretty in-depth as well. And so each dungeon map, you're faced with a grid of squares that's full of enemies, items, and treasures, and more. And you'll need to navigate through the dungeon to get to the bottom right corner, and you might guess it, there's only two options you can do. You can either move right or you can move down. But as you move throughout the dungeon, you'll take on these enemies which can hurt your character, you'll gather more gold that you can buy on future power-ups and items, you'll gain experience for defeating enemies that you can use to learn new abilities, and you can even activate abilities depending on which directions you go through the dungeon. So for example, maybe you move down once and right 3 times, that might activate your character's ability, which might hurt all the enemies on screen, or some other effect. And so it's a cool, unique game. I've never really seen anything like it before. So if you like unique dungeon crawlers with roguelike elements and a bunch of puzzle elements mixed in as well, I think this game could be worth picking up. Alright, the next game on today's list is Super Dragon Ball Heroes World Mission. And so this is a unique arcade-style tactical card battle game set in the Dragon Ball universe. And so it'll pull characters in from Dragon Ball Super, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and everywhere in between. And you'll build out different decks of heroes to battle it out through different story missions and arcade modes in this massive Dragon Ball game. Now the storyline is definitely for Dragon Ball Z fans, I feel like, as it puts you in a ton of different what-if type scenarios, sort of like the Marvel What If show. So again, it'll put you in all these crazy different scenarios that never really happened in the Dragon Ball series, but throw out that huge what-if question and let you battle it out against classic heroes and villains from the Dragon Ball series. And since again this is based on an arcade game, the graphics maybe aren't the most up to date and might look like they came from like a PS2, Xbox 360 era. Again, not a deal breaker if you're a Dragon Ball fan, as I think the gameplay more than makes up for it. And there's definitely hundreds of hours of potential gameplay within this game. There's hundreds of different cards you can unlock. You'll build out your own custom character that you can play in your deck as well. And so if you like tactical card games, I think this could be a great addition. It's on massive discount right now. And if you like Dragon Ball, I think it's worth picking up. Alright, the next game on today's list is Sword Art Online HollowRealization Deluxe Edition. Now it's kind of a mouthful to say, but it is definitely a fun game. And this game is based on the Sword Art Online anime. Basically, it's a virtual reality MMO MMORPG. Players get sucked into this world, and if they die in the RPG, they die in the real world as well. And so the stakes are pretty high and it gets pretty intense, and that's the general idea of Sword Art Online. However, this game takes place after the events of the first couple of seasons, so there isn't that overarching looming threat of death as they're playing the game, but it still is a fun story with unique twists and turns, and if you enjoy Sword Art Online, I think you'll really enjoy diving back into this world. And so it is kind of a mock MMORPG, so it's an action RPG where you'll go through different areas, slaying monsters, taking on quests, unraveling the story, and it plays like you're playing an MMORPG set in this universe. Now, some of the battle mechanics and level up mechanics can get a little bit complex, but I think if you like action RPGs and are a fan of the Sword Art Online series, this could be a great one worth picking up. Alright, the next game on today's list is Blazing Beaks. And so this is a twin stick shooter where you play as a bunch of different birds taking on evil throughout many locations in the game. And so again, it's a roguelike twin stick shooter, so every time you go through the dungeon is going to be a little bit different. New loadouts, new items that you'll find, new artifacts that you'll find as you go through the many different levels. And so you'll start off rather weak with weaker guns, but again, as you progress, you'll build up these items and new weapons that you can buy as you collect money from defeated enemies. Now, it is a roguelike game, so it is challenging to say the least. You'll likely die a lot, but another cool addition to this game is that it does feature local co-op. So you can play through the story mode with a friend, and you can even play competitively in a tournament mode the game features as well. And so there's a bunch of different competitive modes to that aspect of the game. So whether you want to play cooperatively through the story mode or competitively and challenge a friend locally, this is a unique, fun, roguelike twin stick shooter that's worth checking out. Alright, the next game on today's list is Cyber Shadow. And so this game is a great action platformer. To me, it really feels like a combination between Mega Man X and Ninja Gaiden, as you'll play as a cybernetic ninja trying to avenge his clan. And so you'll hack and slash your way through many different levels, finding power-ups for your ninja, and you really feel that progression system as you go throughout the game. You start off pretty weak with limited abilities, but over time you'll collect more power-ups, improving your special bar, improving your health bar, and learning new abilities, where towards the end of the game you'll be diving off of walls, dashing across the screen, unleashing powerful attacks, and much more, and it's a ton of fun. It's definitely a challenging game to say the least, and it does have that retro feel as well, but it has incredibly responsive controls, and if you're looking for a retro style action platform that's a lot of fun, I definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on the list is Panzer Dragoon Remake. Now, if you're not familiar with this series, it was a classic arcade shooting game where you basically rode dragons and fought off other enemies like airships and dragons across the screen. There's several levels to go through, and this game they've really remastered it as well as updated it with modern controls. And so you have the choice between playing with the classic control scheme or a more modern scheme that fits current day controllers. And it's similar to rail shooters like Star Fox, as you kind of control your dragon flying around the screen, taking out enemies that are shooting you, dodging attacks, and much more. It is, again, more of an arcade style game though, so the game isn't incredibly long, but if you want to relive one of these classic arcade shooting games, I would definitely recommend it. Alright, the next game on today's list is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. And so this is the collector's edition of this classic beat 'em up. It originally came out on the PS3, Xbox 360 era of systems, but for whatever reason it got removed from those eShops and taken down for a while. And so a lot of people weren't able to access it until this collector's edition recently came out. And so this is an arcade style beat 'em up with a lot of RPG elements, and you'll play as Scott Pilgrim and his friends as they take on his new potential girlfriend Ramona's evil ex-boyfriends in hopes to win her love. And so the story is a bit quirky, but it's based on a manga / movie that came out a few years ago. And so it's really over the top with the storyline, but the gameplay is incredibly fun and addicting. Again, it's a beat 'em up RPG, so your characters will level up, learn new abilities. You'll find hidden shops around the world where you can buy items to power up your characters further. It really reminds me of games like River City Ransom or River City Girls, which are again some of my favorite beat 'em up RPGs. And so if you haven't yet played Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game, I definitely recommend picking it up. Alright, so the next game on today's list is Mario and Rabid Sparks of Hope. And so if you're not familiar with this series, it's a unique crossover between Mario characters and funny Rabbids characters. And you wouldn't think it would work at all, but it does mesh together incredibly well for some funny scenarios and quite a unique adventure. And so it's a tactical RPG of sorts where you play as, again, classic Mario characters combined with these Rabid characters. So there's like a Princess Peach combined with a Rabid character, a Luigi version of this as well, and much more. And so the characters are incredibly funny and weird. Plus you get to play as the classic Nintendo characters as well. But the combat system can get incredibly in depth and it's a whole lot of fun. There's also tiers of difficulty levels, so if you want to play with a younger audience, you can make it a little bit easier. Or if you want more of a challenge playing as an adult throughout the game, you can make the game harder as well. So I think if you're looking for more a lighthearted tactical RPG, maybe getting your kids into a first version of a tactical RPG, this could be a great place to start. But whether you're young or old, it's a really unique concept that I think you'll enjoy if you're a fan of tactical RPGs, and it's definitely worth picking up. Alright, the final game on today's list is Mighty Goose. And so Mighty Goose is a run and gun shooter based on classic run and gun shooting games like Metal Slug and Contra. And this time you play as a goose, fighting your way through many different levels. And so you'll pick up different weapon power-ups that have limited ammo resources. So you've got things like shotguns, machine guns, and your regular base gun that you'll try and go through the challenging levels. On top of that, you'll be able to acquire different sidekicks that give you bonus abilities throughout your playthroughs, and so you can switch those out as you progress through the different levels. There's a ton of action on screen all over the place and a quirky, fun sense of humor throughout the game as well. And I think if you're looking for a fun new run and gun shooting game, this is definitely worth picking up. Well, again, that wraps up our list for this new Nintendo Switch eShop sale and 10 more games worth buying. So if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you're going to pick up any of these games or you played any of these games before, let me know in the comments below what your thoughts on them are. And if there's any other games in this sale that I missed that are worth picking up, let me know in the comments below as well. I'm always looking for new games to pick up and play. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, check out one of our other videos here. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out, and to make sure that you don't miss out on any future sale videos we put out as well. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.